Rock did Jay-Z last week, and Dean Ambrose did AC/DC this week. Pretty cool. They have changed Hell in the Cell. How about that? Just as I was bitching like a motherfucker last week about, Cena, he's in the middle of this thing. What the hell? This is, almost nuclear heat that Ambrose and Rollins have, dating back to their Shield days and the way they broke up and, and the bad blood and what's been going on TV between the two of them for the past couple of months. Get John Cena the fuck out of there. And they did. They changed everything. Tonight on Raw, they decided to go in a different direction for Hell in the Cell, and they went ahead and made the match, or they were going to decide the match that was going to be in the cell. Now, on one hand, I'm very happy about this. I'm sure we all are, that we are, in fact, going to get Rollins and Ambrose inside the cell because that's what it needs to be. But the way they got there on Raw tonight, even though I thought Raw was a 10 times better of a show than we saw last week, and I didn't even think about killing myself one single time throughout the entire duration of Raw, except for maybe one of the Divas segments. But for the most part, I enjoyed Raw, but they were all over the place with, how they're booking the storyline. I mean, everybody is feuding with everybody. For a while there, I thought they were going to put all four guys in the cell together. So what they decided to do after Cena and Ambrose open the show is the Authority comes out and orders the two of them to team up. Of course they're going to team up, but luckily they don't face, the same old tag team of Kane and Orton and Rollins or some sort of, combination of those three. They face some actual tag teams on Raw, the Usos and the tag team champions Stardust and Goldust. And then the Authority comes back out again after that match and says, okay, you proved us wrong. You can get along. By the way, they did the little trading places bet where they bet each other $1 on the whole fucking thing. So they played the old Randolph and Mortimer trick. And then Triple H goes on to cut a promo and just basically say, we're going to have the contract match tonight. We're going to find out who faces Seth Rollins at Hell in the Cell tonight. This immediately thrilled me because I was never a fan of this match taking place at Hell in the Cell because it makes no logical sense. Seth Rollins is at a huge advantage. He gets to face one of these guys after they just got done having a brutal match with each other. So this makes much more sense. So now they're going to figure it out now. The contract on a pole match, I guess, is what it was. They're now doing that as the main event of Raw. The winner of the match faces Seth Rollins in the Hell in the Cell. Then you have to wonder, okay, what about the loser? Well, Randy Orton goes into Triple H and Stephanie's office on Raw, and he requests that he face the loser of the contract match. What does this mean? You know what it means. It is our 874th John Cena and Randy Orton pay-per-view match. And I'm pretty sure that's an accurate number. Jesus, it's almost as if the WWE is saying to the fans, okay, they want Ambrose and Rollins in the cage, but we can't give it to them. We just can't be that easy. We also have to torture them at the same time and give us Cena and Orton again. Now, you know me, I'm Mr. Logical. I got nothing against Cena and Orton individually, but I do understand the complaints that these guys seem to wrestle all the fucking time on pay-per-view. What the hell is going on here? I thought we were finally done with this shit. I mean, the WWE is going to use the excuse. There's a lot of injuries right now. A lot of people are out. The WWE and their line of thinking, they always want their big-time guys, involved in shit. But to me, there's just so many other guys. Either one of these two could be feuding with instead. If you ask me, you should have had the contract on a pole match between Ambrose and Cena and some completely new opponent just run out there and interrupt the match. Maybe one of those Wyatt family members that they're going to be pushing on their own. Somebody just needs to go in there and cost Cena the victory. That way Ambrose can go on to face Rollins and Cena can have a brand new opponent to work with. But no, they put Orton and Cena back in the ring again. Now, on one hand, the pay-per-view age has changed. I talked about that in my last commentary. There literally are now throwaway pay-per-views because if you are a network subscriber, these pay-per-views are free. So the WWE, they don't need to go out of their way to put on a blockbuster main event for every show. And I mentioned last week, this could possibly maybe revert back to us actually having a big four pay-per-views. Maybe WWE, pulls out all the stops on the big ones, and then some of the in-between ones, they might actually focus around some of the mid or upper level guys, especially when your WWE champion Brock Lesnar is sitting at home. So in that regard, giving us Cena and Orton is not that big a deal because it's going to go unremembered anyway, and it's a small price to pay to be able to get Ambrose and Rollins in the cell the way it should be. Cena and Randy Orton, however, are also in the Hell in the Cell. Now I know these guys have got a long history together, but as far as the current feud is going, why should they even have a match in the cell? I mean, is the bad blood between them really that bad that they need to have this brutal, hardcore match on this pay-per-view? I don't even think the feud calls for that. But they want to have it since there's no WWE champion on the show. The WWE is trying to make this as like a double main event. So it's going to be Randy Orton and John Cena in one cell and Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins in the other cell. Cell. Now, let me ask you this. Which match is the main event? Do you think they would do that to us? Do you think they would actually give us Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins in the middle of the card and put Cena and Orton on last? I fucking hope not. This might not even be up for debate. WWE might have already announced this as the main event. I just haven't read up on it. But if it's still, under question which match it'll be, WWE better do it right, goddammit. Because if they don't make, Rollins and Ambrose the main event, I think there's going to be a lot of pissed off people, and I might be one of them. Now, getting back to what I was talking about Raw, because there's a lot of elements involved here. The main event, we did see the contract match between John Cena and Dean Ambrose. The entire Authority came out to ringside. Of course, you were going to know this was going to be some sort of a, clusterfuck ending. Everybody gets involved. Randy Orton, I think, runs in first. Kane is getting AA'd, and then during the confusion and the brawling, Dean Ambrose is able just to climb right up to the rope, grab the contract, and hold it in Cena's face and say, "Look at me, I've got it, motherfucker." Pulls it down, and thank God we're set for Hell in the Cell. Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins in the Cell. That's what it should have been all along. I don't know what took the WWE so long to figure this out. Less than 2 weeks away from the pay-per-view when they've had all this time. But at least they did it, and the match is what it should be. As for John Cena, he has the stare down with Randy Orton at the end, and they're all set to go. And, Randy Orton also has some shit going on with Seth Rollins. It almost looks like the two of them are, somebody explained it to me on Twitter, because I wasn't even sure why these guys had heat to begin with on television, but I guess they're competing for the number one spot in the Authority, or competing for the attention of Triple H and Stephanie McMahon for the opportunities that they're going to give them. So I guess it's more of just like an alpha male, type of competition between the two of them. But that might lead to something in the future. Maybe we even get another babyface run by Randy Orton. I think that could be a possibility. So to me, I'm assuming that out there in the wrestling community or whatever, there's going to be a lot of complaining, oh, Cena and Orton again or whatever. But look, we're still getting, the WWE, I think, at least gets a tiny bit of credit for giving us a Raw tonight that was not horrible, that had a lot better matches on the show, and it made us happier because, they changed the direction of a pay-per-view. They haven't really done this since WrestleMania. I think, number one, either the fans made enough noise, or number two, they just came to their fucking senses, and somebody spoke up and said, hey, why don't we do it like this instead? And I'll tell you what, it does make me a little bit nervous. WWE, I think the business is moving too fast for them to creatively plan things. It's like they're turning into WCW. Remember when you used to hear all the stories? WWE would constantly make fun of WCW for never having their shit together, writing their shows the day before the show, or the day of, or, during lunch, or sometimes the show would be starting and some wrestlers didn't even know who they were working with yet. I mean, it just seemed like absolutely a ludicrous clusterfuck backstage. Nobody knew what was going on. Plans changed constantly. Nobody was in charge, and it was a mess. That seems to be the way the WWE is running things now. Every story you hear, now I know everything on the internet's not true, of course, but some of these online reports, just talk about all these fucking rewrites. I mean, scripts are being leaked out on the internet and shit. It just seems like Raw is just a creative mess. They cannot figure out which direction they want to go, or they cannot figure it out in time anyway. It's not like they have a big break in between shows where they can plan their storylines for the next several months. The business now, the way the WWE runs things, they got a show every fucking day, it seems like. And you combine that with your crazy fucking owner, Vince, who seems like he has multiple personalities and changing his mind left and right and all this shit. It just seems like, things are just in shambles and they can't get it together. And I think that, and I worry that is, that guys like Dean Ambrose, great talents like this, their character could suffer because of the disarray backstage in the WWE. So even though tonight's show I thought was good, I think the WWE is writing and planning their shows the same way every week. Sometimes we get a good one, sometimes we get a bad one, but all in all, they are throwing this shit together at the last minute. And that's showing, because some of these storylines aren't either, number one, making sense, or they're changing them, or they're dropping them. WWE just seems like they are all over the place, and they cannot figure out who is feuding with who, and what anybody is fucking doing. On top of that, the injuries that WWE has suffered has thrown monkey wrenches into the creative plans. It's just, this is just the time of year. We went through this last year. If you listen to my commentaries, September, October, November last year, I think I was fucking whining like a bitch back then too. I have no doubt they'll straighten shit out. I have no doubt by the time WrestleMania 31 rolls around that we are going to be loving life. But right now, it seems like WWE is just all over the place. So I applaud the good Raw, and I just hope they can follow up with it. Next week's go-home show better be good leading into Hell in the Cell if they want anybody to watch this fucking thing, and I hope they keep with it, because tonight was good. We didn't have to deal with the fucking Gator and the Bull, although, I don't even know who the hell they brought out there. I guess some of you told me some real housewife reality star came out there with the Divas. It was ridiculous. But it was only about 3 or 4 minutes long, no big deal. I didn't have to deal with the, El Torito match and shit like that. Instead, they gave us some pretty decent stuff. Dolph Ziggler and Randy Orton, by the way, had a great match. And I even mentioned on Twitter, this is one of those occasions where, maybe I sort of miss WWE having 2 world titles, because when I see a match like that between those two guys, and I don't care what you say about Randy Orton, Randy Borton, he's boring, the WWE pushes him too much, whatever. He's great in the ring, and he's very smooth, and he's very fluent, and when you combine that with somebody like Dolph Ziggler, who's the greatest goddamn seller in the history of the business, Randy Orton looks awesome. And I think those two guys, if there were a world heavyweight title like the old days, they could have a great program together on SmackDown. Remember what Randy Orton and Christian did a few years ago? Nobody liked Randy Orton back then either. Everybody's been sick of Orton for years, but you cannot tell me that those series of matches he had with Christian were not fantastic. They sure as hell were. To me, I would much rather see, Randy Orton featured in feuds with guys like Dolph Ziggler, guys that can give us good matches, than guys like John Cena, because John Cena and Randy Orton's match, although they're both capable of having a good match together, I suppose they could surprise us. I'm not expecting the Hell in the Cell match to be all that much. I think the match that Randy Orton and Dolph Ziggler had on Raw will be 10 times better than anything Randy Orton and John Cena will do at the pay-per-view. So when I saw that match, I was just thinking to myself, this is great. I'm glad the WWE is giving this to us on Raw, but why can't they make this a pay-per-view match? Why can't they give Dolph Ziggler or a guy like him? Cesaro was sitting out there in fucking commentary tonight during a match. Why can't they just give him, you don't have to push him to the moon, you don't have to smash him over or anything like that. He doesn't have to be your next guy. But why can't you push him enough to where they can work with one of these guys on some of their pay-per-views? Because I think the matches will be better, the fans will enjoy it a lot more if they're seeing something that they don't always fucking see. And if you book it where each guy can get a couple of victories and neither guy gets buried and it helps both at the same time, if they can figure out a way to book feuds that way, then I have no problem with Randy Orton and John Cena getting the spotlight the way they do. But enough about all those guys, the Ortons, the Cenas, the Ambroses, and all that. What else did we get on Raw? Big Show versus Rusev, right? They had that match. Now, Rusev, of course, got smacked down by The Rock last week. This week he has to face the Big Show, and looked like he had Big Show beat. They had Mark Henry run out there and actually do a run-in. If you would have tuned this in, as it was happening, you would have thought Rusev was the babyface. I mean, Rusev had Big Show beat. Big Show was not going to get out of that camel clutch. Mark Henry runs down, tries to distract the referee. Rusev chases him off, puts the hold back on Big Show. Big Show is fucked. Mark Henry realizes it, so he runs in and attacks Rusev. And then between the two of them, they beat the crap out of him. And Big Show ends up knocking him out with the big punch. I joked as if it was like a double switch or something. Of course it was not. That anti-USA heat, was huge, especially in the South, and they were in Atlanta tonight, so the crowd was going nuts. They were even doing the Atlanta Braves chant, which I thought was funny. It was actually, I think, the loudest the crowd was the whole night. They seemed pretty lame for most of the night, but they were into it during that match. But the finish was just a little bit strange, the way they ganged up on Rusev, the baby faces. It took 2 of them to take this guy down, so to me it might just be, a teasing of maybe a Mark Henry heel turn, like we haven't seen that 800 fucking times too. But if he does in fact turn heel and this, new stable gets underway with Kofi and Xavier Woods and Big E, I think Mark Henry could have a place in that. He could wind up turning on the Big Show or whatever. But it looks as if the WWE is going to keep on rolling with this Rusev push, and I'm wondering who they're setting him up for. A lot of people have said Cena. We'll have to see. After Hell in the Cell, I don't see any reason for John Cena and Randy Orton to wrestle again. They better fucking not. So after Hell in the Cell, Cena might have to go after Seth Rollins for whatever imaginary problem he has with him, or he can move on to somebody else, and maybe it's time for Rusev. Or maybe they're waiting till Mania to set him up with a match like that. Who knows? But they're definitely setting him up for something. Also, how fucking hilarious has Damien Sandow been with this stunt double character? I mean, this is one of those things that I don't think was supposed to get over. And I was saying from day one that no matter what, Damien Sandow is still on Raw every week. A lot of wrestlers can't say that. Where the fuck is Zack Ryder? At least Sandow's on the show. At least they're doing things with him, and he was very entertaining in all of the things he had done, and he has been the most entertaining in this situation with The Miz, where he's his stunt double. The way he's mimicking him outside of the ring, I mean, the fans are all chanting, "We want Sandow, we want Sandow." No, don't put him in the ring. Keep him doing exactly what he's doing. I mean, I wouldn't have thought when this first started that it would be this funny. I mean, Damien Sandow is fucking hilarious. And I think the WWE realizes when an entertainer he is. The fans sure as hell do. And the WWE, like it or not, has listened to the fans once or twice this year. And I think they are noticing that the fans like Damien Sandow. He's been really entertaining in all of the goofy gimmicks that they've put on him in the last several months. And I think that in the long run, it will wind up something better for him. Damien Sandow, I don't think will be released. He's not being buried or squashed. I think he's becoming so over in this gimmick, it's going to have to lead to, a turn and a feud with The Miz and maybe him, rebuilding his reputation and being pushed again. But I'm excited to see how over this really gets. I mean, how loud are the chants going to get? When is the WWE finally going to do something more with Sandow? But for right now, they can keep him doing this because this is highly entertaining and the fans are getting a kick out of it, and he's doing a great job with it, and he's proving what kind of an entertainer he is. Yes, he's doing goofy shit right now, but if he's so good at the goofy shit, imagine how good he'll be at some of the serious shit if they in fact give him some of that in the future. Now, I was going to keep this short and sweet tonight, but there is a couple of more things I do want to mention. As I'm recording this commentary, I'm reading right now, literally right now, that Justin Roberts, the ring announcer for WWE, has been released, or they're not renewing his contract, it looks like. This is from WWE.com, so I'm assuming it's legit, and Justin Roberts is gone. That's a shame. I don't know much about the guy, but he's been there a long time. This is definitely a direct result of these budget cuts. It has to be. Why would you release an announcer that's, been featured on so many of your pay-per-views that you've done throughout the years? He's been, one of your main ring announcer voices. I thought he was pretty good, but the WWE are just being cheapskates. They're just being cheap bastards. They want to get a cheaper ring announcer. That's all it is, because Justin Roberts has been there for several years. Your pay does tend to increase as you work for companies year in and year out. The longer you put in, the more money you probably make. So WWE can save a few bucks by bringing a less experienced ring announcer in and starting him from the bottom on the bottom pay. And that's got to be the reasoning, unless he's got some sort of personal issue backstage that none of us know about. That's the only reason I can think of that they would release this guy. So good luck, Justin Roberts, but that's the nature of the beast. It's fucked up. That's the way the WWE is now. They don't give a shit about anybody, and they're going to do what they have to do for the company, and that means if they have to release people that have been with the company forever, they're going to do it, and see you later, I guess. It's a cutthroat business out there. Kurt Angle is another subject some of you have asked me about. How do I feel about a WWE return if he does come back to the company? Because apparently his contract with TNA is now up. I would love nothing more for Kurt Angle to come back to the WWE, but at this point, I think it's almost too late. I think Kurt Angle has got a shit ton of personal problems. He tends to have, he just fucking blatantly lies through his teeth. I don't think Kurt is that credible. He reminds me a lot of Hulk Hogan, who's just always caught in stupid lies. Remember Hogan, the Metallica, they offered me the job first to be in the band or something like that. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you really do you think we're that fucking stupid? And I think Kurt Angle talks a lot of shit. Oh, the WWE's interested in me, and they're offered me a long-term contract and whatever. I don't know. I don't know if the WWE necessarily is. I don't know if they trust Kurt Angle. I mean, I think they could definitely bring him back in because they brought Hogan back in, and Hogan is a mess. So if Kurt Angle proved to them enough that he's, cleaned up, he could maybe come back in to do a retirement match, maybe a 2-month retirement run or whatever. But with what went on with Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and all these other guys, I do not think the WWE wants to take a chance on somebody like Kurt Angle, especially somebody like him that has so many drug addiction issues, especially with the pills, which is, one of the things that have killed the most wrestlers. I think the WWE is a little scared of him and scared of his behavior. So if he gets his shit together and comes back for something, I think that would be great. Kurt Angle, I mean, I thought he had great matches in TNA, but my favorite work was all the shit he did in the WWE. He had amazing matches there. I hated that he left to begin with in 2006, but he was in a bad place. He had a falling out. I couldn't believe he left, and he stayed gone for as long as he did. Think about this. Kurt Angle, I think, if we add it up, he's been in TNA just as long, if not longer, than he was in the WWE. About 7 or 8 years or so. He might have even surpassed his run in the WWE. So if anything, Kurt Angle has more of a TNA legacy than he has a WWE one. But at the same time, I think he made enough of a mark in the WWE that he 100% has to go into the Hall of Fame one day, and I would love to see that happen for him. But if Kurt Angle can somehow miraculously pull it together at the age and shape that he's in, and get himself in ring shape, and have a little run with somebody in a final match and a Hall of Fame deal, I'd be 100% for it. But as far as him coming in like randomly, like any week, and just showing up and being on WWE TV, I don't see any way that's possible. I don't think he'd pass any drug tests. I don't think he'd, pass physicals or wellness policy stuff. I just think Kurt's a wreck. So the WWE would have to be really sure that they could trust him if they brought him back in, and if that's the case, then hell yeah, bring him on. And finally, I am aware that TNA had a pay-per-view last night or Sunday night, Bound for Glory, which I think is their biggest one. It was about the size of a high school basketball game. I think there was 44 people there. It was in Japan. It was taped, and it was still $50 on pay-per-view. So I'm sure it was not worth the value. I'm not trying to knock TNA too hard, but that company is the absolute shits. I didn't see it, so I can't comment on whether or not the pay-per-view is good or bad, but I cannot imagine that it would have been worth $50. I'm sure the wrestlers worked hard. I'm sure the matches were solid. But for a pay-per-view, I don't know what they could have offered you last night that would have been worth that money, especially from that teeny tiny venue. That venue was the size of my fucking kitchen. And this is their WrestleMania, but fine. We all know TNA's not a competitor with the WWE. I don't think they're trying to be anymore the way they were before when they were so, fearlessly going head-to-head with them on Monday night like idiots. I think they've gotten away from that now, and if they can just concentrate on themselves, I wish them all the luck in the world. I know Dixie Carter's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but it's a company. It's somewhere for wrestlers to go, and they're no threat to the WWE, and they're not being assholes the way WCW used to be in the back in the day. But it doesn't make any logical sense to trash TNA. I'm not going to do that. Why would I even do that? I might poke fun at them. I might make a joke here or there because that kind of stuff's funny. But at the end of the day, why is somebody like me would have any ill will towards TNA? I don't. This commentary page was founded on me bitching at TNA fans. I cannot tell you how far away I am from those opinions now because I honestly don't care. I don't care about TNA. I don't want them to go out of business. I don't care what they do. I really don't watch them. They are not a form of entertainment that I enjoy, but I certainly don't want them to go out of business, and I don't root for their failure because their failure means a lot of people, including wrestlers that a lot of us like, are out of a job. So Bound for Glory being a joke doesn't please me. It just kind of makes me laugh. So I guess that's it for this week. I am out of here. I want to thank you guys so far for the positive feedback on the Stone Cold Steve Austin DVD review. That one was a lot of fun to do because it was such a long documentary and such a thorough, examination of his life. I like doing those, and those DVD reviews have turned into like superstar spotlights where I use the DVD as a platform to, review the entire career of the wrestler. They're a lot of fun to do, so I appreciate everybody enjoying those. The mailbag segments that I made the video about a little while ago are in the works now. I should have one up within 2 weeks. So what I'm guessing is probably after Hell in the Cell, I'll do a post pay-per-view and Raw commentary, and then like a day or two after that, I'll try to have that first Q&A video up. I've got some really good questions so far. Please keep them pouring into the email, goodmicwork@gmail.com. Send me all your questions that you want, and I'll try to get to them in future videos, and I think it's going to be a segment that'll be a lot of fun. I'm on the fence about whether to do a review next week after Raw. Here's what I think is going to happen now that the Hell in the Cell matches are set. Ambrose and Rollins and Cena and Orton, I expect that they will just, build for those matches next week on Raw. They have 1 week to do it, where Orton and Cena can do some shit together to build for their match, and Ambrose and Rollins can do the same thing. And the WWE needs to announce some more matches. Are those the only two we have so far? Maybe we've got the Intercontinental title match too, but I'm guessing we're going to have a tag team title match involving, the Usos and the Rhodes brothers or whatever. Ziggler and Cesaro, I'm assuming, will do something. I don't know what they have planned for Rusev and Big Show and Mark Henry, if any of those guys will do anything together. Of course, we've got the two big Hell in the Cell matches. I'm sure there will be a Divas match in there somewhere if one has not already been announced, and we'll probably wind up still having 7 matches for this thing, and I'm sure we will get all of that information and be all set to go by next week. But if Raw sucks again, because it kind of goes up and and down. We had a shitty one last week. We had a good one this week. So if next week's go-home show sucks, I probably won't even come up and do a predictions video because there's no need to. I'll just work on my Q&A video for the time being, and then I'll come up and do a post-pay-per-view or post-Raw video depending on how each of them go, and we'll go from there. So that is the immediate plan, but as usual on the Good Mic Work channel, plans always change. So just plan on staying tuned in to me so you don't miss anything. I will talk to you guys in a week or two, and I wish you a good night. Until next time, peace.